Our next assignment is to make ceramic clocks. I'm going to show you some examples to get your creative juices flowing and sort of also talk about technically how we do this. Sorry. Okay, so what I'm looking for from you is for all of you to design a clock that meets both form and functional requirements. Form and function. This is so common in making ceramic items. If you're going to make something that works, that you use, in this case a clock, you have to be able to be sure that it actually will work, the function, but that also the form is attended to. We're artists. This is an art class. So we want to be coming up with some sort of a theme or concept to your clock, which of course will make it more fun to make as well. So we just looked at a cat. Here's a bird. In the case of the cat, it's a wall clock. This is a standing clock. You can make either. And you can pick any theme you want, as long as you can create it so that we can make it into a clock. So here's a fun solution, right? A sculpture of a piece of cheese. The back is clearly open so that you can put the clock mechanism in the back. And then this student has created a little mouse that sits with the clock. This is a very fun idea. Again, it's hollow underneath. Of course, it has to be. If that were thick clay, it would blow up, as you know. And so it's hollow underneath, and you can turn it over and put the clock mechanism into the back, and then apply the hands on the front. So this is what I'm talking about. I've ordered these kits for each of you. They come with a set of 2 mechanisms. They don't show both here, but the box with the little shaft sticking up, there are 2 in each kit. And then a variety of hands, sweep hands, everything you need. So you guys will pick out the hands you want, and hopefully we'll have enough different styles to go around. And here is the mechanism that goes on the back of the clock. And you'll have to be very careful about measuring the hole that you put in the center of your clock so that the width of this shaft will fit through the hole. Remember, clay shrinks when it dries and it's fired. So you're going to have to make it a little bit bigger than this. And also, the clay can't be too thick so that when you put the shaft through, it actually can go all the way through the clay. It doesn't get buried inside the clay, so to speak. So here's what I'm talking about. Here's a clock. It's ready for the mechanism to be put in from the back. That little shaft sticks through far enough in order for you to put on the hands and the sweep hand. If it barely sticks out, you can't make the clock work. So here's a profile of a clock that's in a little sort of A-frame, and you can see that you could reach in, put the mechanism in, and then attach your hands to hold it together. And, you know, the sky's the limit for the theme. As you can see, somebody made a toilet, which is kind of funny. Or this person made a ceramic shoe and then put real laces in it. And the clock mechanism, of course, they had to reach in through the opening of the shoe. So it may be that you don't want to choose a theme in which you have a recognizable object. That you want to just work with the elements and principles of design. And that's totally fine. You need to watch my Elements and Principles of Design video, which is also linked in this lesson, so that you really understand what those are, so that you can apply them with some knowledge and understanding. So in this case, I would say that the element of design that I'm noticing here is color and texture and repetition. So this is a dynamic clock. This would definitely meet the high standards I want to set for this assignment, in that it has a lot going on. It's very fun to look at. It's well put together. It's, you know, it's kind of organic, right? These little circles are not perfect. They're all different sizes, but there's something sort of sea urchin about it that I really like. And then you could get really creative and really do have something you recognize, a cake, a carton of milk, something kind of fun and pop art-y Pop art is a style of art that uses recognizable, common, everyday household objects as the center of the idea. So here we have two different clocks. One is a bathtub, and the other is a tropical tree on an island. Both of these work. They're a little cutesy for my taste, but I don't want to limit you too much. So I wouldn't be making these because I think they're a little too cutesy, but you may think that these are delightful and want to make something like them, and that's fine. So this is not ceramic, but I'm going to now show you in pretty quick succession, to keep this presentation not too long, a bunch of ideas. If you're a musician, your instrument might be a great idea. Then there's themes like fish, animals, cats and dogs seem to be a common one. Again, so this one looks like a mechanical clock in that the little birdhouse at the bottom attached to wire, that this is probably a clock that actually ticks back and forth to make it run, which is kind of old school, but it really makes for a nice design. And maybe you add that even though your clock is run by a battery. There's another cat. And this clock has been mounted to a wooden base so that it's a mantle clock. You have a wall clock or what they call a mantle clock. Here's a ceramic one that's a dog. Look how stylized it is. Like, that's not a realistic dog, but I'm pretty sure that's a dog. It's fun. Another dog. The mechanism is in the back, so it's just a slab, and the mechanism actually has a little hook on it. So you can actually hang your clock from the mechanism. Or you can add little blocks of wood or whatever you want to do, or put holes. So in clay, those legs would be very fragile. I wouldn't recommend it. But you certainly could make legs out of another material. That's totally fine with me. Wire, dowels. You can mix it up here. This is a fun one as well. Ceramic figure, stylized, holding the clock. And notice there aren't numbers on this one, but you can certainly, they have little spheres and you can see what is noon, what is 4, you can tell, right? Here's a theme of coffee, kind of fun. This is really cute, right? The front of an old-fashioned airplane, propeller plane, and the hands would be the propeller. Very clever idea. And look at the little parachutist coming off the bottom. Here's a little teapot. This would be lovely in a kitchen, right? A kitchen clock. Very fun. Notice the use of wire. You can mix media this. You can use other materials. Here's a mantle clock made with slab construction and coil. Those spheres, those little balls, I'm sure those are hollow. At least the large ones are hollow. And the back of the clock would be open in order to put in the mechanism and attach the hands. Here are more simple, minimalist, where they've actually created the numbers three-dimensionally on the one on the left, and then created this sort of lovely little triptych of a landscape. And the one on the right, I like that because it's got that lovely pattern, either pressed or added on with slip trailing, and then the flowers. Both of these would work. Here is an example of how you could put a slab base with a thin slab vertical area for the clock, right? So that little, it almost looks like a screen, right? It's not tipping right or left. It looks a little precarious because the artist scored and slurried it to a base, and that's fine. You can make a ceramic base to hold up your clock. And this is a ceramic box that doesn't have the back side on it, and I like the little fact that you can time flies and you look through the little hole and it looks like there's a sculpture of a fly. That's a nice clock. This is fun. This is a wall clock and has the theme of the cow jumping over the moon. Ceramic cloud. That's lovely. And this is not a clock, but I wanted to show you that I have a surface, a technique. It's called rub and buff. It's a metallic paint that you can actually rub onto your ceramic clay rather than put glaze. And it's really quite lovely. And I wanted to show you that that was an option instead of glaze. And then, you know, we looked at a lot of pieces that would have been made with slabs, but you can also use the coiling method, particularly if you're going to allow the coils to be the star of the show. Isn't that nice, right? So you'd build this backwards, and create it on a flat surface. Probably put some plastic down so you can build it over time, and then and press the back together, but leave the front. You've done this, so I think you all know what I'm talking about. I'm just showing you a few. Isn't that lovely? Wouldn't that be a beautiful clock? And notice that they have the spirals around the edges. You can limit those spirals to 12. And each spiral would be, of course, the next hour on the clock. And this one too. This is a bowl, but I wanted to show you that if you made this flat, you could have a theme to your coils. And notice they're not all coils. You can, any units of clay that you stick together to create a design. Look at the variety of texture. They've got a sand texture, and then they've got some fish and bubbles and the octopus. Really nice. I'm showing you this one toward the end because it's a combination of slab construction and then coil surfaces added. And look, it has little feet. And I'm sure that's a box. And in the back, you can see it's three-dimensional box because of the 4 legs that peek out. And so in the back, it's open, so you can put in the mechanism. And here's how that works. So, you know, you have your clock in the middle, see there in gold, and you push the mechanism through the back. Remember I told you that the mechanism has a hook on it? So that can be how you hang your clock. And so you put the mechanism through the hole, the shaft sticks out the other side, and you apply all of those items in that order, and then a screw that keeps it down. And you have a working clock. Obviously, we get batteries, and we have working clocks. So that is the lesson. I think it's going to be very fun, and it'll be kind of cool to maybe display these in the upper school art show in May, and hang them put them on pedestals and hang them on the wall, put in batteries, and have all these clocks in the show. I think that'd be wonderful. So I hope you have fun. Remember that the requirement is that the clock has to have a theme. If it doesn't have a recognizable theme and you're just going to work with the elements and principles of design, like this one, remember that this was just, right, texture, or this one, again, not recognizable, but there's a design there. There's an element of design. Line, repetition, texture, color. All of those would apply to this one. You may do that, but you do have to be able to speak intelligently with me about your elements of design choices, okay? And there is another shorter presentation that explains the elements of design to you. Have fun.